Death.
Before the god of death. You should kill them all. Madness will consume you.
You are already dead.
Watching from a post up high, from where you see the ships afar, from a well-trained eye, the waves all keep on crashing by. If you are the life post, then you own the working class. But if you want the answers, you let me say alright.
Bow before you.
Hey guys, I'm here today with a Shadow Priest PvE guide for heroes. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like. I've had a blast making it. Also, it's been pretty rigorous. I put in maybe 50-60 hours trying to get this edited, to get the footage, whatever it may be. A lot of it being learning how to use editing software more proficiently. Please excuse my shitty gameplay in the background. I just jumped on my Shadow Priest without, playing for about a month. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you.
Your asses don't ask for your favorite rapper. Yes, sir. Amen. Church.
As for add-ons I use, Bagnon really doesn't matter. I just use it for the bags. It's just one big old bag, and you can use, you can search through it. You can look through other characters' bags while on one other character. It's fucking great. I love it. I've just suggested for anyone. I use Quarks because it's a custom casting bar, which is very, very, very useful for, say, channel effects like Drain Soul, Mind Seer. Not so much Mind Flay. I'll later explain why Mind Flay is not useful. Recount for damage, so you can post your big dick on World Chat, Raid Chat, Twitch Chat, emoticons. So if someone says Kappa, it actually shows the Kappa face. It's pretty funny, meme worthy. And then I use like Pearl for raid frames.
Hey, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up.
Alright, here's some useful ways my macros could be used in a raid. Let's say you're on the second boss in Sunwell Plateau, and your tank's not that well geared. He's about 4 or 5 meter strikes in, and if he gets another, he's done. He's dead. Your raid might as well wipe. You guys may have like a shitty B-res. You can't trust a lot of the players on here, or any player on any video game. So trust in yourself. And you have two options. You could continue DPSing, or you could use one of these macros and save the raid, be the full carry that I'm trying to help other priests become. Yes, these macros, you don't necessarily need them, but they really help in time saving. Alright, for example, the Plane Shredder's the boss, and Dune Rip is the tank that's just about to die. Let's say you're DPSing, oh, he gets hit by the 4th. You notice his HP goes down to 10%, and he's not going to survive the next one. The boss is at 40% or whatever, so he's going to die. We've already been over this. So as soon as you see that, you move your cursor over here, and you're still DPSing, but you're keeping a very close eye on the boss and his cast bar when he's going to do Meteor Strike. And then as soon as you see it, you stop DPSing, stop abilities, or you could preemptively do it a little bit, use it earlier. You press D, or whatever your keybind is, you do the paint suppression macro. There you go. You didn't have to click on him, press the key, and then click all the way back on the boss. Start doing damage again. So it saved a full second, which a full second is a big deal. This is kind of an insightful way of explaining why mouse over macros are important, especially as healers. Remember the boss being at 40%, let's say he's only gotten down to say 20-30%, and shit, he's gonna die the next one as well. And let's say he has I don't know, let's say, whatever, he's a warrior, right? So he has shield wall coming right back up, but it's not going to be up in time for the next meteor strike. It's going to be up for the one after the next one. So what's going to happen? You guys are going to wipe, or you're going to be the carry priest. And then the same exact thing happens, except now instead of pain suppression, because it's on cooldown, is now guardian spirit. Do the exact same thing, boom. Oh, meteor strike kills him. He instantly rises back to, like, whatever, 70%. HP. Just because people may not know that you carry the raid, it doesn't matter that much, because I don't think gratitude is that much needed when you save your own time a good 10 minutes from preventing your raid from wiping. It's self-explanatory stuff. Another useful mouse over macro that it's the exact same function as pain suppression, but it has a very short cooldown. It's not really a cooldown, it's more of a debuff. You know, you all know it. Power word shield. While you're DPSing, oh, meteor strike. And you know, you don't want to use your big cooldowns yet or say they're completely out. You're like, oh shit, what do I do? Oh, boom, do it. That's like the exact same way you use pain suppression or any of that. Or you could use it just whenever the tank pulls or to speed them up to pick up adds on the healers or anything like that. It's like the most useful ability a priest has towards the raid, easily. Meteor strike's coming. Oh, you use it. Oh, he just survived. All because of you. All because of you. Oh, you lost a few percent DPS, but you saved 10 minutes of time. I like using this Dispel one. So it's pretty long. It's kind of hard to... I'm not going to go piece by piece of what every single command means or what it does. But basically, it's a priority system. In this macro, the highest priority is mouse over, and then target, and then just yourself. Let's say I'm targeting the boss or something that I could dispel from him, and then I'm hovering over my friend, and then say he has a silence or something dumb. He's polyed in, like in Sunno Plateau. Let's say he's polyed, and then, you know, where's the dispel gonna go? It's gonna go on my mouse over. And let's say you have a magical debuff on yourself as well. So I hope you go to dispel. You just gotta hover over yourself. If you just wanna dispel the boss, have him targeted, and then do anywhere on your screen. If you want to dispel yourself, just mouse over off everything. Make sure you don't have a target, or if you are your target, I wouldn't recommend it though, but you just press the key and then you dispel it. So it's a priority system that really saves a lot of time, and it's a mouse over macro as well. Another macro I would recommend using, so let's say you're in KJ and he does the Soul of 1,000 Worlds, something like that. You're low geared, say you're in there at T18, like bare minimum, you're gonna die. Sure, you can pain suppression, sure you can guardian spear, but that's a huge waste. Like, save that for the tank, or save that for someone else. Like, you could be full carry and there's 3 people, like say they're all low gears. You have it in your head like, oh, this guy up here is low gear, so you pain suppression him, and then you guardian spirit him, and then you dispersion for yourself. You just save 3 people. You just saved the raid. Literally, you saved like, what is it, a third of the raid. And so then what this macro does is, as soon as you press dispersion, you press it again, you come out of it. It's a cancel aura macro, that's what it's called. And so what it does is it takes away the buff known as dispersion. Say like if I were to do /cancel Greater Blessing of Kings, gets rid of it. But with this macro, you run into a problem if you don't recognize that you are in dispersion. If you spam dispersion with this macro, you'll cancel the dispersion. Moral of the story, be careful not to spam press it and cancel your own dispersion. Another really cool macro I like, it's super useful because normally in the game, if you keep pressing mass dispel, it will make the green area of location, whatever that is called, it takes it away. It uncues the ability and it's like, oh shit, and then you have to redo it again and then click. And the next would be the helpful mouse over macro, which are entirely needed if you want to be a pretty scary. A few examples being my greater heal, like renew, just any of my helpful healing spells, they're all mouse over. So I don't have to target them. So basically it saves the time and frees up a slot for your targeting. You know, you could target the boss and then mouse over and heal your raid. It's needed for healers, and it's needed for Shadow Priests to recover a raid when, say, a healer dies.
Sometimes I just feel like my father. I hate to be bothered with all of this nonsense. It's constant.
In this next part, I'm going to be going over some pretty useful abilities, but they're not useful that often. They're very niche. Like, if you don't know about Shackle Undead, you know, you could still play the game and it's fine. But if you do know about it and you use it in the right situation, it's very powerful and very impactful. Not so much on this private server though. I can't think of a situation where in high-end play there's like an undead character you can shackle. It's like a banish, which I believe is a correct comparison to like banish, I think. Except banish is demons while shackle undead is, you know, undead. You can't attack it, it can't attack you, it just sits there, it's chilling, that's it. It's like being stunned, but you know, you can't attack it, they're in a bubble. Another one is Light Wall, which I don't see people use that much, which is kind of ridiculous because it's like a near instant cast that you put down, then anyone could go up and click it and say, hey, I need an even more powerful renew. for 6 seconds, and it's like, oh, and it can practically heal someone from like 50 to maybe 80%. It's quite a bit of HP, so I'm not sure why many people don't use it. Like a good situation would be like in Twins, say one of the melees fucks up and he stands within the melee group and has conflag, goes off, there's hella raid damage that goes out, and then you just drop Lightwell, or you had Lightwell already dropped there prior. Oh, they're like, oh, I'm taking a lot of damage, oh, I need a heal. The next one, find him being arguably not as strong as, say, Lightwell, but it is still pretty strong. 8-minute cooldown, but how many times are you gonna kill the same boss? So basically what Divine Heal is, it's a channeled ability which is pretty quick because of her haste being super high, and I think it heals about like a Greater Heal 4 times, and how many players does it say? 4 players in about like a second. It's like boom, 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 and like crazy healing. So let's say Conflag goes out, people are about to die, you use it, you instantly, save the raid. You are the carry. So it's a pretty damn good ability in a situation like that. Another one being Fade, and it's a pretty big ability because let's say you're rooted or slowed or anything, and it's a non-dispellable, it's not a disease, any of that. What you could do is while you're standing in shadow form, say whatever this lower immobilization is on you, you just click Fade, you're out of it. It's a really good ability, like great in PvP especially, but it really helps. And that's not the primary use even. Like the original use would be, it's basically like a feign death, but not as strong. But it really does help if the boss comes barreling towards you and you can see it. Instead of, whoa, and try to run away, is you just click one button, the boss runs back to the tank, and then there you go. That's it. Not so much abilities, but ways you can use abilities you already use to help you. If you guys didn't know, any damage that is absorbed won't knock back your cast. So a really good situation where this is useful is a bunch of mobs come towards you for whatever reason. And, you're mind searing, and the mob is about to hit you and fuck up your mind sear. So basically, you use Power Word Shield, and then they melee you. They can melee you 3 or 4 times, before they actually breaks the shield. And not a single one of their melees will knock back your cast. Next ability would be Psychic Horror, and where it's useful is, say, Prince Malchezaar, the last boss in Karazhan. He does an insane amount of damage to tanks, like whenever they taunt swap, and the tank isn't necessarily prepared, or they're not experienced and they're not gonna really survive maybe the first few hits. So what you could do is Psychic Horror the boss, actually disarms the boss as well, and he does a lot less melee damage to the tank, or even if the tank's just poorly geared, you just saved his life. It's one of like 4 major abilities that you can use to help your tanks. Like, you are a huge help to your tanks, so that's another way you'd help out the raid. Not so much that it has like a hidden use, but I don't see many people using it, so I'm gonna put this in here. Psychic Scream. It's an AoE fear on a 26-second cooldown, which, if you guys didn't know, is pretty crazy. You can use it as an interrupt, just as you can use silence. You could use it to save your ass, say a bunch of mobs are running towards you. And the next one being Shadow Word Death. So Shadow Word Death, how it works is you use it, and if the target isn't killed, I'm pretty sure, yeah, if it's not killed, you take that damage, or at least a portion of that damage, back to yourself. But it's like a 1 second delay, or like 3/4 of a second delay. So what you could use is at, say someone actually pulls 2 of the Oblivion mages after Twins. They can both poly, so you're going to be using your Psychic Horror to interrupt and your Silence to interrupt. Let's say you've used both, another AoE poly's coming out, and you can't interrupt it. So what you could do is, while they're casting poly, you go, oh shit, stop DPS, and you say, Shadow Word Death. So they cast poly, but that Shadow Word Death damage comes back to you and breaks the poly. So boom, you're out of poly. It's really useful for PvP.
Biancas and Beatrices are known for wetting mattresses and bending over in the ill positions.
As a Shadow Priest, the only true consumable you need is the Elixir of Empowerment, which is pretty much 30 spell pin, which is pretty good on bosses. Depends on the raid though. Or even the Lesser Flask of Resistance, increases your resist for all schools of magic by 50, so it's quite a bit. The first one being the most important is Glyph of Shadow, being that any ability that doesn't damage with dots, I believe? Yeah. increases your spell power by 30% of your spirit, which I'll later explain why spirit's super important. And then the third one should be the Mind Flay one. While it does 10% increased damage if the target has Shadow Word Pain, which the target will always have Shadow Word Pain. So, kind of helps your damage a little bit. It's something, you know, it's something. The next one would be Glyph of Power Word Shield. So basically it heals quote-unquote 20% of the absorption amount whenever you put Power Word Shield on someone, which I'm pretty sure the percentage is bugged, because I'll do it right here. It's going to heal for 500,000, well, 600,000 basically. And I can assure you that shield is not like, whatever, 20%, like 3 million. It's not 3 million, I can assure you that. So it's bugged. But it's pretty useful, but you kind of run into the problem of there not being any other good DPS glyphs. I would say Shadow Word Death glyph would be the third one you'd put if you didn't want the Glyph of Power Word Shield. But it's like 10% damage for Shadow Word Death if the mob is below like 75% or 35%, something like that. So it's pretty minimal. But yeah, again, Glyph of Shadow, Glyph of Power Word Shield, and then the Glyph of Mind Flay. And then if you didn't want the Power Word Shield, I would, like I said, get the Shadow Word Death.
To the motherland, the German army march.
Alright, and for the gear, you guys are going to want to focus on getting as much spirit as possible. I've already done the math, but the best way you should go depends on what you have as donor and what you don't have as donor. Alright, let's start from the bottom up. So if you were to have completely 100% faith, that would be the most optimal spell power and spirit. So hooray, you got it, but you run into a problem of not getting the 2 set for the Plagued. So, it's not so easy. So basically, you need 100% faith, but then replace 2 slots with Plagues, and I can explain in any situation what you would use. So like in my situation, it's a little special, not so much, but I bought the entire faith main set and offset, I believe, but never the jewelry that I buy the donor. So these are the only slots, the ring, neck, and back, where I can say, hey, I need to have 2 of these be plagued. Just in this situation where you just have the jewelry that you could replace to be plagued for the 2 set, you would use neck and back plagued. So now let's put in the category of you being 100% donor or 100% non-donor. In that situation, you would have the plagued head and then the plagued neck. And if you guys have any really specific questions like, oh, I'm only putting in $60, what should I get as a priest? Should I get stab, blah, 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 blah. Any of that you can direct in the comments. It's impossible to address questions like that specifically because there could be 1,000. There's 1,000 different ones. So if you guys need any help at all, just put in the comments and I'll help you guys out. So the spirit is helping towards your spell power, like I said. So a couple talents I can pick out right now would be like spiritual guidance, the 2 spirit taps, one for getting a kill, one for using an ability that isn't a dot, or dealing damage that isn't dot damage. So there's a bunch of talents that help your spirit or your spirit turn into spell power. So spirit is a big deal. And if you guys haven't thought of it while I was explaining, donor buff actually is really good for your DPS, and so is voter buff, because it increases your total stats by 30. That means all your primary, being strength, agility, stamina, intellect, and spirit. So if your spirit's increased by 30%, that means the amount of spell power you're getting from your spirit is actually increased by 30%. So it's a big damage boost.
Praise the Lord! Pass the ammunition! God wants you to go to war!
Alright, so basically your single target damage is mostly in a priority system. There's no real procs that happen. So with a very simplistic guideline, I would say top priority, the Shadow Word Death, Mind Blast, Devouring Plague, Vampiric Touch, Shadow Word Pain, Holy Fire, and then Mind Flay. Keep in mind, you don't have the Holy Fire. Like, that's just if you want to add a couple percent. You're trying to min-max. You're trying to be the best, the very best there ever was. Well, if you're not, you're just, you're trying to get a good stable rotation without, putting so much mental power into it, Or if you just want to start from something slower, I would say don't include Holy Fire. Do Mind Flay. But if you want to do that little bit extra damage, put in Holy Fire.
All my life, where am I? 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 All my life, I'm just a faggot.
So that's the most simplistic way I can put it, but let's get a little bit more advanced. From my experience, there are 2 different dot types, at least in this private server. I'm not so much sure in retail. I haven't played Wrath that much, but these 2 dot types are fundamentally different, and understanding their differences will help you. These 2 dot types branch off and are very different at a certain point. Alright, and just for example's sake, I'm going to be using arbitrary numbers. So let's say Vampiric Touch lasts 21 seconds, and it ticks every 3 seconds. So it happens 7 times within that 21 second duration, right? So you apply it, and it's at 21, it goes to 20, goes to 19, then to 18, and it does damage. And then, it goes 17, 16, 15, does damage, blah, 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 blah. We all know that. So in this example, we're using Vampiric Touch. So if you reapply it at 17 seconds, when is the damage tick going to happen? Is it going to happen at 18? Because, it happens every 3 seconds. But a second's already gone by. So would it happen at 19? So this is where the 2 dot types differ. So let's start with dot type A. It will happen at 19 seconds because a second's already happened since the last tick of that Vampiric Touch. So reapplying it at any given moment doesn't affect the dot ticking pattern. Alright, and then there's dot type B that will say, whenever you reapplied it, it says, hey, this is a new dot. No matter what. No matter if it's an application or a reapplication. It's a dot. I'm going to do my dot pattern. It will ignore any previous application or any future reapplication. That may have helped you guys a little bit understand it a little bit more. My explanation may not be the best, but it's hard to explain without experiencing yourself. So let's go right into it. A good way to test for this is just reapplying your dot over and over and over and over. And just do it 10 times and never stop spamming that key and see if that dot actually does damage. Alright, so let's just spam Vampiric Touch. Spam it. Spam it. Oh shit, he just took damage. So that means he's the dot type A, right? There's no difference between an application and a reapplication to the dot timer. So it's always going to tick in the same pattern. So the dot pattern is constant, which means the first tick is going to be just as far away from the second tick as the second tick is to the third tick. It's not like going to be oh, the first tick, 5 seconds later, second tick. Or second tick, 2 seconds away from the third tick. It's always going to be a set, it's going to be a set amount of seconds. I hope that cleared up the explanation of dot type A, while dot type B is actually what Devouring Plague is. And if you guys caught on, an easy way to test for dot type B is just to spam the ability. Alright, and I'm just going to spam it for a little bit. Nope, not a single time has it done damage, because watch, I'll let it do its damage. It's not going to be 20k, it's going to be 200k actually. So, that means it's a completely different type of dot type B. So, dot type B is the exact opposite. So let's use the same example with the Vampiric Touch, but replace it with Devouring Plague, and make it 21 seconds, and it takes every 3 seconds. So, if I reapply it at 17 seconds, where's it going to tick? Ding, 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 it's 18 seconds, because the dot timer completely resets. I hope I helped you guys with the very little sleep I have between the differences of dot type A and dot type B. So, dot type A being Vampiric Touch and Shadowward Pain. Devouring Plague is actually dot type B, where reapplication does affect the dot pattern. Sadly enough, there's more information to explain about dots in the server. After they nerfed and buffed Priest a little bit on their playstyle, they also fucked with Vampiric Touch and Devouring Plague. They actually didn't touch Shadowward Pain, because those 2 abilities were haste affected. So what they did was, they gave they'll tick every 2 seconds, and then fucking it'll last an odd number. So it's really fucky. I don't know who did it, but they didn't do their job right. So if you look at the retail one, Shadowward Pain, Like it's gonna fall off right here, and then it does damage, right? You know, right as it falls off, just how dots should do. While if you look at Vampiric Touch, it fell off, no damage. So if you look at Devouring Plague as well, it fell off without the last tick dealing damage. But if you guys paid really close attention, the Devouring Plague last tick is actually at like 0.6, 0.4, 0.5 range-ish. So after telling you guys all this information about dots, you guys may ask, like, why does this matter? Why does this affect our rotation? How it affects your rotation more heavily weighs on Devouring Plague. Vampiric Touch kinda affects your gameplay a tiny bit. So basically my tip for Vampiric Touch is don't let it fall off. Never let it fall off, because then you're fucking with the dot timer. You're losing full seconds within that dot pattern that you could be using for your next dot tick. So my tip for Devouring Plague is actually to do it at that 0.5, 0.4 type place where the last tick actually happens. That's where you're supposed to reapply Devouring Plague. So then it can run its dot timer again without wasting a full second, running off, and then you reapplying it, say, a couple milliseconds later. So next thing I want to talk about is the Mind Flay changes from retail. So how retail works is Mind Flay happens in ticks. So 1 tick, 2 tick, 3 tick, 4 tick. While on here, they fucked with it, and I think now it does 5 or 6. Well, if you download any add-on meant for retail, it's not going to be accurate. So basically what I'm getting at is the retail where it's like, oh, I'm going to use Mind Blast, I'm not going to use Mind Blast right here, I mean a little bit after that tick, because I'm losing potential damage. While on this, the game's easier, because they made it just non-existent unless someone actually makes an add-on. So on here, it's a lot easier. You don't have to time the ticks, you don't have to do any of that. So guys, Mind Flay at your own discretion. Except, don't just spam Mind Flay. So what it does mean is, don't instantly use it at the beginning, but use it, you know, somewhere within the channel. That doesn't really matter. Here's a little trick I can show you guys on top of that. Alright, so Mind Flay lasts 3 seconds, right? Let's say everything's on cooldown, all your dots are up, you're looking good, but Mind Blast is about to come up and you need to use it. But it's on a 4-second cooldown, not a 3, so it's like, oh shit, what do? You know, simple enough. You use it, and then somewhere inside you use it again. Keep in mind, don't throw in Mind Flay between 2 really close periods of time where it's like, oh, Shadow Where Death is coming up, but also I gotta refresh Devouring Plague within the same second. Don't throw in a fucking Mind Flay there, because you're gonna run into GCD issues. So just do those 2 things and then go to Mind Flay. Mind Flay is just like easy breeze, you're just chilling.
I did my time and I went out, so abusive and afraid. It doesn't touch, the soul is not so vibrant. The reckoning, the sickening, back at cheeks of virgin. Pseudo-sacred fake perversion. Go drill your deserts, go dig your graves, then fill your mouth with all the money you will save. Sinking in, getting smaller again. I'm done, it has begun. I'm not the only one. And the rain will kill us all. Though ourselves again.
Keep in mind, Mind Flay actually refreshes Shadow Word Pain. A little tip that not many people know about is that Mind Seer actually does a little bit more than Mind Flay for single target. The thing that sucks is Mind Seer can't be used just on one person and it deal damage to that person. You need 2 different people standing next to each other. You know, if the second wing trainer was over here sitting next to the first, and I used Mind Seer, it would actually do damage to the second one, you know. Everyone knows that. And it would do it in these tick patterns. So actually, you'll later see in my pre-recorded footage where I'm going to be criticizing my rotation, you're going to see me use that cool little trick and then swapping between targets, the dot, the Mind Seer one. It's actually pretty fun. I really enjoy it. That's probably my favorite thing to do as a Shadow Priest. Alright, now for cleaving. It's hard to stage a cleaving scenario now that guild houses don't exist, or I don't know. At least I can't get in my previous guild house where I have a bunch of dummies set up for cleaving damage. So everything is the exact same, but now you just got like a couple targets. Like, easier said than done though. So the hard part being managing multiple different targets and there are multiple different dots on them, especially when you're not using Mind Flay to reapply that Shadow Word Pain. So there's a whole new level of difficulty, which I absolutely love about Shadow Priest. For cleaving, you absolutely don't, never, ever just spam Mind Sear. You never do that. If it's 4 targets and you're not so good at multi-dotting, then it's okay. I'm fine with you doing that. But you'll lose major damage with 3 targets. 3 targets, that's where multi-dotting is very key, and with 3 targets, you're going to shine as a great Shadow Priest if you can really lay out the damage there. So just like many other Wrath rotations, it's going to be on a priority system, but this priority system is very lengthy. So this is how the Cleave priority system goes. Reapply Vampiric Touch, reapply Devouring Plague, reapply Shadow Word Pain, Shadow Word Death, Mind Blast, Devouring Plague, Vampiric Touch, Shadow Word Pain, and then finally Mind Sear. Keep in mind the tip from earlier, Mind Flay actually reapplies Shadow Word Pain. And another tip I have, and this is just to like really reap out the best damage possible, especially for you and your raid, it's to make sure the Devouring Plague is actually on the target who's gonna die last, which you can usually judge, and also to Mind Sear the lowest health target. My explanation for that is Mind Sear doesn't do damage to the target you actually do it to, it does it to all the targets around it. So let's say you have 3 mobs up for 20 seconds, but if you can change that based upon your play to be 3 mobs up for 40 seconds or 30 seconds, that's really good, because the longer more mobs are out, that means more dots you have ticking, that means more Mind Sear damage you have ticking. It's great. And the Devouring Plague is like the same concept. It's keeping most of the pack alive for longer. And another tip is to plan this around your Mind Sear ticks. If you don't know necessarily what that means, is if you guys installed the add-ons I referenced to you earlier, then you'll be able to use this one right here, Quartz. So like I said earlier, Quartz times between your ticks and your Mind Sear. So you can't see it right here, but normally if there was another target right here, you would see damage there, there, and there. So an example to where you would time around your sear ticks and your dots and your abilities would be, say, well, you're at 3.3 seconds. And you see your Devouring Plague very closely about to fall off. Without this add-on, you'd instantly do it, and then you'd miss out on so much damage that was about to arrive just like 0.3 seconds later. But with this add-on, we can skillfully use it and wait for that tick to happen, and then immediately after that tick, you press Devouring Plague, reapply it, and then beautifully done. You added so much extra damage to it. Alright, and then finally for AoE, this is kind of the disappointing part of the rotation, but kind of the laid back, not actually, kind of very laid back. If you want to be laid back, all you gotta do is press Mind Sear. Oh boy, it's so easy, right? Actually, the most optimal way of AoEing would be to use Shadow Word Death or Mind Blast and then AoE. According to the Spirit Tap talent, it's going to increase your total spirit by 10%. I did some testing, not super reliable, but I'm willing to say confidently that this is better than just Mind Searing. And hey, it's funner. I like it more. Alright, I actually can't use it on the dummy because it takes the Mind Sear off after like 3 seconds. So, you Shadow Word Death, you Mind Sear, and then whenever Mind Sear goes off, you do it again, and then after the second tick, you're gonna want to Mind Sear.
NANI? And this is to go even further beyond!